Hey buddies, welcome to AmassGames. My name is Simon. Today I'm with the two-player game Sekigahara. This is a block-style game, which is a war game mechanism that's been popularised for a number of years. In 1946, there was the game Stratego, whereby you cannot see your opponent's pieces. You're going to have your pieces here. You're going to have Ishida's pieces facing this way. By the way, that is Ishida. I'll call them gold. We have Tokugawa over here representing black. Easy way to remember it is Tokugawa has a K in it, and black has a K in it as well. Different setup slightly. I do hope you can hear me okay. Please do let me know in the comments are best on YouTube. This is a game by GMT Games. This is the 5th printing of the copy. And this happened to be designed by Matthew Calkins, who is a billionaire. So that's the main reason why I was very curious to try this game. And on BGG, it's currently rated the 6th highest rated war game with a very good rating, 8.0. So, just briefly, spoiler alert, I am going to give it about an 8 as well, but let me tell you why. Let me tell you the history of this game. It's the largest samurai battle in history, about over 150,000 troops involved. It revolves around Ishida, who was known to the Lord, who had recently, 10 years ago, taken over the eastern part of Honshu. This is the largest island of Japan, whereby Edo, which later became Tokyo, is, whereas the capital is currently Kyoto. To, by the way, means city. So this lord 10 years ago was fighting with the clan in black here, Tokugawa, and what was happening is he basically said, right, they were enemies and they became allies in battle, and basically splitting up the lands, and he said, look, I'm going to give you these 8 fiefdoms, this 8 fiefs over the right hand side in exchange for the 5 in the middle, which he knew would be a bad idea for him to accept, but straight away said, yeah, I'll take it. He didn't realise how good an administrator he was, and within 10 years he converted it. This guy, basically Tokugawa Mori, who had been there before, he had said, right, it's probably going to take him generations to actually improve on this land, but he did it in 10 years. And he transformed it into making a fantastic, prosperous area. It was a swampy area, but he made it very effective. What happened was he basically became his enemy again, and he tries to get Ishida, obviously in gold, to basically, instead of being a tea merchant, to be a warrior, whereas the guy over here had lived up some heavy battles because at the age of 2 he was kidnapped, age 6 I think he was taken away from his mother. So this battle happened in a place called Sekigahara, which is here in the crossroads. In 40 days they had a fight over here. Also Ishida on gold happened to be promoted, let's say, or very well respected, because that older guy was getting ill, that lord, and there was pus coming out of him, and they were having to drink from the shared teacup, and out of turn he drank from it, which got a lot of respect. So he tried to get somebody else to suggest that they should have had this guy killed, Tokugawa, but that failed. So then this guy was exiled, he wasn't killed, but then this led to this battle. So that was a bit of an overview, quite a long history. It's a fascinating 8-page read. I do recommend reading stuff on Wikipedia too. So what do you do in this game? Well, apologies not coming to that sooner, but I really want to explain what we're doing and why. It's this asymmetrical game, 2 to 3 hours in duration. You're going to have a handful of cards, and we're looking to get allegiances. By the way, I have sleeved this. In this occasion, I've used MTL sleeves. Other sleeves are available. Check out my sleeving playlist and the AmassGames playlist. And I had a setup, play and review playlist, amongst many others, including the 2-player playlist. So this is a block game, and what's going to happen is we're going to start off with certain cubes in certain locations. So these blocks in particular have a little square on it here, but every different symbol will be different. And they're going to go out, so you have 4 squares here, and in this case you bring 2 extra from your bag. That's your bag representing a fog of war. Another bag, you can see the shadow over here for Ishida in gold. So over here you're bringing out 3 stars, here it's just a random one for the bag, etc. Again, the opponent will, well, they might know actually what your starting stuff is because that's standard, but apart from that, everything will be randomised. And what you're looking to do, you do 2 things in your turn over 7 weeks, but first off, you're going to have 5 cards each, and then you're going to try and bid for turn order. So in this case, you're going to play a card. Now, all your cards, if you're playing as Tokugawa in black, is an even number, whereas over there for Ishida in gold, they are odd numbers. So someone's going to win by playing a higher value card, and when you play that card, it's discarded. It can come back once you've shuffled through your deck, which happens about halfway through the game. And what you're going to be doing is deciding if you want to go first or second. Top right, just out of the shot here, we have got this counter here, deciding if you want to go first or second. And then you're going to move it down onto part A, because everyone's going to take 2 turns. You take your complete turn, which is a movement action followed by a combat action. You do that, then your opponent goes, then that moves down to B. You do the exact same thing once each, and then you go through to the recruitment phase, which is part 2. In the first round, we do not have a recruitment phase. We start off with 4 blocks. It gives you some indication of the kind of things that you can muster, bring out. And some of these terms, by the way, I feel are very similar to the other videos you can check on the channel, such as War of the Ring. It's a very similar feel of this game. So let me show you what you could be doing. You can move. How do you move? Well, you can spend 0 cards, because you've got 4 cards left. You've already discarded 1 card for turn order, and that's called a movement type of none. And what happens is you can just discard any number of cards and draw. I'll tell you why you might want to do that. If I'm talking too fast, please just hit the slow down button, or of course speed up if you wish to. The next type you can do is a minimal type of movement. You're moving 1 stack. This is a stack, this is a stack, that is a stack, that is a stack. As anything as you like, as long as it's from 1 location. So I could move, let's say here, I'm starting here, 1 position there. So again, all these pieces, remember, are going to be pointing in the other direction. And I can move 1 stack, 1 space. However, if you happen to have, I'll start off with a larger stack. If you have a stack larger than 4, so more than 1 to 4, so 5 or 8, then you're going to reduce that movement by 1. If you have it even larger, 9 to 12, it's an additional taking off of movement until up to 17.5 blocks or 17 plus blocks, there is no movement allowed. So 13 to 16 blocks, you're taking 3 off the movement. So how can you even move up to 4? Well, if there a leader is present, then what you can do is you can choose to move an additional space. The aim of the game is one of 2 ways to win. One way is to eliminate your leader. So this is my leader here, represented by the 3 dots. The opponent's leader is over here. So if you can find that spot and destroy those blocks, then you have won. Again, you will not know throughout the game because we'll be moving things around, but they might get revealed as battles occur. The second way to win is after the 7 weeks, so 7 rounds, you get 2 points if you are controlling a castle. If ever you control an opponent's castle and move blocks away and there's no of your blocks left, you no longer control it and it reverts back to the original owner. So right now I've got 2 points here, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 points. If you happen to control any of these red locations, you also will control them as well. So currently I do control this location as well. So I get 2 points per castle, 1 point for each supply location, which is marked with a red dot. So I've got like 11 points or something like that. At the end of the game, again, you're going to count that up and see who has won. It's impossible to get a draw, I've noticed. But well, sorry, you could get a draw, in which case a Shida will win. So that's how you can win. You can obviously try and get an outright victory by destroying your opponent or destroying this token here. Or in this occasion, you can try and go for points. So far, it's only gone out of points, but it has been close trying to destroy the leader. And that's why I find the game quite fascinating in terms of variability. But I'll come back onto that. So movement, you can move 1 extra with a leader. You can also move 1 extra in addition to that if you happen to start in a castle. So if you're in a castle, then you can, such as here, then that can move 2 spaces because it starts in a castle. If you begin and end your turn on a highway marked in red, you get additional movement. So right now, I could move this one. Let's say I'm here, so I can go 1, 2. However, there's a leader here, so I can move 1, 2, 3 because I started and ended my turn on a road, and I have a leader as well. The final way to get an extra bump is to discard a card from your hand, and therefore you can force march, and therefore you can move up to 4. Now instead of doing that, you can actually do additional things. So we've talked about movement. Instead of a movement action, you can muster. You can bring out items from here, blocks that are from here. Various armies, various factions. So these represent Mon. I'll come back on to what that means in a second, but it's basically the different symbols. And I can either muster to 1 location, so I can bring this out into its matching location over here, or I could bring it out to any of the other ones if it's just 1 block. So this could come out there or wherever you want it to, a friendly recruitment location, there's 4 of them. Or I can bring out, and I show my opponent, both of these, because you have more than 1, and they can come out all together. So you show them, and they're going to come out where your respective matching Mon is, in which case we have Tokugawa down here. So that's where you would bring him out to. Once per turn you can do it, you can never move it the turn you bring him out. So let's finally talk about movement in other ways. So we talked about a minimal movement of 1 stack. You can do a limited movement, so you've got your hand now, remember, of only 4 cards, and if you've done that force march, and you can choose to do a limited movement, which means you're moving 3 stacks. Again, a stack doesn't have to be all of it, it can just be some of it. So movement, what you cannot do is, let's say you are here, you cannot move 1, 2, and then do 1, because you cannot, so you could do this, but you couldn't go 1, 2. If you happen, because it's got a leader, it can move twice, but it cannot be crossing the same bit more than once. And also you cannot choose to cross yourself, and you cannot use a block more than once. So you can't use a road piece more than once, you can't use a block more than once. So you couldn't split its movement somehow. So you couldn't do this and then somehow that does this. So you can't do those kind of actions. Any questions, do let me know in the comments section on YouTube, and like, subscribe and hit the notification bell for further videos. What else is there? Well, we've talked about moving 3 stacks. So the last option is you discard 2 cards from your hand to do what's called a total. That is, you're moving all your stacks, so everything will move. Again, it's going to move up to its limits, which is in this case 1, +1, or if it's in a castle, it can be a +1 instead. Or if it's a capital city, so Edo, or over there in Kyoto, or Osaka, can move by 1. Sorry, Kyoto. So that's represented by the capital city symbol over down here. That's movement, so that is the first thing you're doing. The second thing you're doing is combat. If you end your location where there is an enemy set of blocks, then you can combat. It could be a single block, it could be multiple, and let's talk about how that works. So starting with you as the aggressor, let's say we are over here. What you're looking to do is play out some cards. The cards do need to match your blocks. Again, they cannot see your blocks, so you must have something that matches, otherwise it's very fruitless. So I might play this, or the first thing I could do, if I've got a leader, bit stupid in this instance, but say, hey, I've got a leader here, and you can bring it out for free, it doesn't cost you anything, and I get 1 impact. You take one of your cubes and you mark it on the impact track of 1, the most impacts will be a victory. It's their turn. Let's say they haven't got anything, in which case I would win. They would lose 1 block, and they must retreat back in the direction that they came from if they were the attacker. So that actually, no, basically they can't come from the way I came, is all they need to be doing. They could go here, they could go here, but if I've got any of my troops here, they've got to go there, and vice versa. If I happen to get an impact of 7, so they chose not to do anything else, they must go next because they are behind, they are losing. If they played something, in which case they tied, defenders win ties, in which case I would have to go again. But now I can choose to play more stuff. So I could choose to play something that matches, in which case it doesn't, but imagine this was here. I could play this using a respective card, in which case my impact is now up to 4. It's 4 because it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Imagine I brought out this one as well, then my impact is now 4, 5, 6, 7, but it has a bonus of 1 because my prior mon was there. So you get plus on bonus. So if I brought out another one, then I get 1, so I'm up to like 7, or whatever it is now, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So each previously played block of the mon that you have gives you a bonus of +1. You can bring out cavalry, represented by the gun, which was introduced by the Ottomans about the 15th century and into the 16th century into Japan. So what do they look like? Again, you need to have a matching card, but in this case, if it's got the sword and the matching mon, you can then reveal it and bring that out, and that is worth 3, plus again, any bonuses from prior cards. So you could now have an impact, let's say of, I don't know, 9 or whatever it might be. The fact is you've won the battle, so they lose a block. They also lose an additional block because you have an impact in the zone between 7 and 13, so they lose 2 blocks. And again, if you're in the 14 to 20 zone or above, they lose a 3rd block. You will gain cards equal to the amount of cards that you played, so they go into this card pile, you'll draw up, they'll also draw up whatever they played, and because they lost more than 1 block, they will draw an additional card as well. And that's how that's going to go. One thing I haven't talked to you about is overruns. So if you happen to have, say, at least 4 units and they've only got 1, you'll instantly win. However, if they happen to be in a castle, then in this case they can go into siege mode, which basically means you cannot be overrun in a castle. So what is sieging? Nothing to do with overruns, but it does mean if you are attacking a unit that has at most 2 blocks, then they can choose to go into siege. What that means is they're not attacking you, they're just wasting your time and energy and actions, and what you're doing is you just need to be getting at least 7 impact when you fight, in which case you can then remove 1 block. Again, if you've got at least 14, then you could be moving both on this occasion. This particular place is slightly different to the other ones because this faction can choose to give up its disc, which you'd rather do, and then keep these behind. So that's something they can do to help slow it down compared to the other locations. That's the only place that has a disc that works that way. So that is combat. Everything is covered off there. We haven't talked about loyalty challenge. So 180 letters were sent out to 108 daimyos. Many chose to take the side of Tokugawa in terms of switching, because initially in the battle it was perceived that it was going to be Ishida who was doing very well, and they were shocked at how many people switched sides. And then we'll come on to Mori in a second, but what this means is when your opponent has played a card, you can interrupt that and say, I need you to show me one more of these cards in your hand, basically representing a letter. And if they cannot, well, sorry, let's say if they can. If they can, they show you that matching Mon card in their hand, it goes back to their hand. If they cannot show it, then that faction is just going to, that block is going to come across to your side. And the way that's going to work is they're going to count their impact on your side. And then if you happen to win, then they're going to lose that block, plus any other blocks that they have, starting off with ones that they've revealed. So we've pretty much covered everything. That's been quite a rapid fire approach through the game. Again, I didn't set up the game in advance as in the video because of what it is. I hope you found this of interest. Generally speaking, I do talk about the victory conditions further in advance, but I thought it'd be handy to tell you about this. Again, you're playing it over 7 rounds. Whoever happens to have at the beginning of the next round, so round 2, you're bringing out 2 more blocks each. So again, you won't ever see what your opponent is bringing out. However, what you will be doing is if you control the most resource locations, so if I happen to be here and I move across through it, then I get to place this black cube on it because I was the last person to go through that location, or even if I stay on that location. If I've got more castles than my opponent, then additionally drawing up 5 cards, I'll draw an additional card. Now, you might think we've got loads of cards, but at the end of the round, which is something, apologies for not mentioning, is you'll have to discard half your hand rounded down. So it's a way of just thinning your deck and then drawing back up again. So what you're going to be doing is you're then going to be, in the beginning of each round, you're going to be drawing cards, plus, like I said, so 5 or 6, if you happen to have the most resource locations represented by cubes. In a tie, you both draw 5. And lastly, if you happen to have more castles, you're drawing 1 additional block. Otherwise, if it's a tie, you'll both just draw 2. So let's talk about Mori. If ever you happen to reach Osaka using Tokugawa in black, then these instantly will come out. The only other ways for these guys to come and fight is the fact if you choose to spend a card and bring one of them out gradually, which they'll go to Osaka. Just about this faction, what they're about is basically they chose to abstain. They just watched the battle unfolding, and when Tokugawa went on to win, they basically found the leader, executed him a few weeks later when they found him in the woods, and they actually chose to execute Mori as well. So they didn't give any lands to those who kind of swapped sides, but because they abstained, they got the worst kind of treatment. So there we go. That was how to explain the game. Like I said, if you've watched any of the other videos, you'll know a bit clearer in how to do it, but I felt this does cover everything. I do recommend a second watch, and I look forward to, obviously, you checking out the description in YouTube as well, whereby you can find links through to the podcast. Also photos of this played, obviously with these blocks nice and stacked up, with various people over on Instagram, also over on TikTok, you can find more stuff, etc. Thanks for watching. Like I said, check out the various playlists as I mentioned. Look forward to speaking to you again very soon. But for now, that's been Sekigahara, the unification of Japan, back to the table. And I went on to look after this land for another 15 generations, which was 287 years. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.